It seemed like a good idea at the time. We had spent a day in Cripple Creek, Colorado, poking around a town that was one part old Western Railroad town and 2 or maybe 3 parts now gambling haven for Colorado tourists with money burning a hole in their pockets. The town was northeast of where we were staying for the week, a little town called Westcliff, Colorado, in the Sangre Cristo Mountains. And we had arrived there in Cripple Creek around the middle of the day, driving up from the south by going around a big mountain and then dropping in from the north. We hung around there for a while. There there wasn't a whole lot to do for a family with kids who were 11, 7, and 6 in a largely gambling town. When the time came to go home, we pulled into the gas station at the south edge of town and asked the guy at the counter the best way to go. Well, the most direct route, he said, is to take the road that goes south, over the pass. It takes you right to the highway. Easy. So I headed back to our rented minivan filled with children and beanie babies. If I had eyes in the back of my head, I might have been able to see the grin on the man's face behind the counter as I walked away. All of us flatlanders ready to ascend. As the sun began to set, away we went. We were traveling south, but we were also going straight up. Straight up to the top of the pass. Up and around and around and up and up. On roads that were only wide enough for one car in some places. Roads that had no real guardrails to speak of. Roads where the only thing that separated our little minivan from front page news in central Colorado was a soft shoulder and a very thin brake pedal. At one point in our journey, when we had to pull over to the edge of the road to let an oncoming car pass, I thought to myself, this is crazy. This is nuts. I'm just going to turn around. But as I looked out over the valley below, I saw that the road from which we had come looked just about as bad as the direction we were headed. So it appeared we had reached the point of no return. Too far to come back. We were all in this together. We were going to see it through. And we all know a little bit about reaching that point, don't we? The point in a journey or a project or even a conversation when we've gone too far to come back. Once we've taken the sledgehammer to the drywall in order to open up the kitchen, we've gone too far to come back. Once we've gathered the family around the dining room table and said, Mom and I need to tell you something, we've pretty much gone too far to come back. I heard a story a while back about this phenomenon, reaching the point where it's too far to come back. It seems as if a rookie skydiver was doing her very first solo dive, having already jumped out of the plane, she pulled on the ripcord, as she had been instructed, to open her chute. Nothing happened. She pulled on the emergency cord and nothing happened. So as she was plummeting to the earth, she began to take stock of her situation, weigh her alternatives. And wouldn't you know, she looked down and saw a guy coming up at her, up from the ground. And when they got close enough to each other to speak, she called out, Hey, do you know anything about parachutes? As they passed each other, he responded, Nope, sure don't. But do you know anything about gas stoves? I don't think that's a true story. But it has truth in it. Sometimes we pass the point of no return, don't we? The story of the Transfiguration, I think, is a story about the disciples passing the point of no return with their leader. It appears in 3 of the 4 Gospels, and each one, what happened prior to the Transfiguration is very different than everything that happened after the disciples climbed up that mountain with Jesus. Before the disciples climbed up the mountain, they'd been following a wise, charismatic rabbi who had a way with words and had this presence that seemed to heal people. You know, some people have that kind of presence, that way about them. And that was Jesus, and that was good. Those disciples, they were the toast of the town, traveling around with a superstar. Fishermen who'd spent most of their lives sitting out on a boat talking to lake trout had become celebrities. Those disciples might have felt a little like Allie in A Star is Born, having gone from singing after work at a corner bar one day to standing on the stage of the Greek theater in front of thousands the next. Wow, this is cool. Indications are that the disciples were smitten with the success that they had come to find, knowing Jesus. Until that one day when Jesus got into one of his moods, Jesus got strangely sullen with a faraway look in his eye, and he started talking about suffering and even being killed. And then, to polish off the buzzkill, Jesus tells his buddies the way to follow him from that point forward is going to be taking up a cross and losing the life that they had known. These troubling words were probably still disturbing the sleep of those same disciples 8 days later when Jesus came to Peter, James, and John early in the morning and said, "Wake up, come with me." And they did. They climbed that mountain with Jesus, back and forth through all those switchbacks, and the higher they went up that mountain, stranger things got. That one overlook that gave them such butterflies in their stomach was the one where Jesus was praying, which wasn't that unusual, except that his face had changed, and all of a sudden he was wearing dazzling white. And then, around the next curve in the road, there was Moses and Elijah. I was just standing there talking to Jesus, like they were longtime friends at a high school reunion. Then Peter, impulsive Peter, was so sleep-deprived, his first thought was to jump out of the car and build houses for everyone, right there on the road, which must not have struck Jesus as a very good idea, because the next thing Peter knew, they'd all climbed up into a cloud, into the mist. You know the mist that happens on that one ridge between here and Morgantown? Couldn't hardly see. Then there was the voice. Each of the three swore that they heard, "This is my son. Listen to him." Then the cloud broke, and there he was, all by himself, Jesus, sitting by the side of the road, telling his friends, "We're done here. Let's go back down the mountain." And then he turns and says, "One more thing. Whatever you do, don't tell anyone what you just saw." So yeah, it was strange. It was the upside down, only it was right side up and very high. But as those three remembered their time with Jesus, years and years later, that early morning up on the mountain divided everything between before and after. After they'd been to the mountaintop and come back down, everything was different. I can just picture James asking Peter a few years after Jesus died, "Hey, Pete, can you remember when all the trouble started? Do you remember when things started to go south?" And Peter might say, "Yeah, it was that trip up the mountain." When Jesus told us not to say anything about any of this. The disciples may have walked down the mountain on the same path they used to come up the mountain, but they were different. They were changed. Before, they were just following and along for the ride, but on the mountain of transfiguration, Jesus essentially tells them where they're going and asks, "Okay, are you still in? Are you still in?" One of the reasons I like the story of the Transfiguration is that it names the fact that things come along in our lives, crazy things, dramatic things, terrible things, amazing things. For so many of us, the mountain kind of comes along and divides life into before and after. A door closes behind us and there's no turning back. Those events can be wonderful. A marriage proposal, buying a house, or maybe a job that means doubling your salary but moving across the country. The mountain of transfiguration can be thrilling. Other times, those transfigured moments are more frightening. When mom can't remember where the silverware drawer is in the kitchen. Or that couple we love to hang out with announces they're separating and we never saw it coming. Or maybe when the church where we raised our family makes a decision that means our daughter won't be able to walk down the aisle. The sanctuary she's always loved. Transfiguration moments, trips up the mountain, come in all shapes and sizes. But the one thing they do have in common is that they oblige us to rethink things. Okay, now what do? James and John might have been wondering. Lose our life with this guy or go back to fishing? Am I still in? We might wonder to ourselves when the church shuts us down. Well, the good news for today, for us, is that scary, exciting, strange, disorienting transfiguration moment. After that moment, Peter, James, and John stuck with their friend. They continued to follow their friend, even after things got scary. I imagine they could have walked down that mountain and walked right out of Jesus' life, but they didn't. Instead, they reached the point of no return, looked at each other and said, okay, we're in. Now, to be clear, there certainly are times when it's wise for us to turn back, right? Not every cause needs us to be its champion. Not every party is the right one for us to attend. Not every person deserves our sacrifice. But there is something, don't you think, there is something of the gospel, something Christ-like about saying, you know what, I'm in. And then sticking around and seeing it through. Maybe during the season of Lent that's before us, maybe we can take stock of those who count on our presence, those who are in our care, those whose journey we share, those who are in the back of our van while we are doing the difficult work of traveling up the mountain. Maybe during this season of Lent, we can take stock of our most cherished relationships, and for each of them, figure out what it might mean for us to say, you know what? We've come too far. We are not turning